The wind blew dust across the junkyard like a storm of forgotten memories. Old ships lay in pieces, their metal bones creaking under the dying sun. Among them walked Ethan Cole, a mechanic who never believed in luck, only in hard work and broken dreams. He had spent years fixing machines for others, always saving just enough credits to buy his own ship one day. Now standing in front of a rusted hulk half buried in dirt, he felt something strange. The old vessel looked dead, but there was a feeling in the air, like it was watching him. The dealer, a wrinkled man with oil stains on his face, laughed. "She's junk, kid. Nobody wants her. Been sitting there since the war ended." Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead. "I'll take her." The dealer stared at him. "You sure? That thing might not even start. And they say..." Strange things happened inside it. Ethan smiled faintly. Every ship deserves a second chance. He paid the credits, signed the papers, and walked closer. The ship's hull was scarred with burn marks, the paint long gone. He could still see old military symbols faded under the grime. The nameplate read Odyssey-7. When he touched the cold metal. A quiet hum echoed from deep within, like the ship remembered his touch. He froze for a moment. Maybe it was just the wind, or maybe the old dealer was right. Ethan climbed inside through a broken hatch. The air was thick with dust and the faint smell of old fuel. His flashlight swept across twisted wires, shattered glass, and scattered tools. Every step echoed like he was walking inside a sleeping giant. He reached the cockpit and wiped a layer of dust from the control panel. "You've been through hell," he muttered. The ship gave a low, soft sound, not mechanical, not exactly alive, but something in between. Suddenly, lights flickered for a second, then went out again. Ethan's heart raced. "Power's still running?" he whispered. He followed the faint noise to the back of the ship, into what looked like a cargo bay. Something moved behind a pile of metal crates. He stopped breathing. The flashlight trembled in his hand. "Who's there?" He called out. No answer. Only the soft hum again, this time closer. He took a slow step forward, pushing a crate aside. Behind it, a figure crouched in the shadows, small, trembling and glowing faintly green under the light. It was a girl. Her skin shimmered like pale jade. Her hair a silvery white that caught the beam of his light. Her clothes were torn but simple, made from pieces of cloth and leather. She looked terrified, her golden eyes fixed on him like a cornered animal. Ethan lowered his flashlight. "Hey, I'm not going to hurt you." The girl didn't speak. She backed away until her hand touched the wall. Her movements were quick, defensive. "You live here?" he asked softly. No answer. Only silence, broken by the distant creak of metal. He knelt slowly to appear less threatening. "I just bought this ship. I didn't know anyone was here." Still nothing. Her breathing was shallow, quick. He noticed faint scars on her arms, not human scars. Something had happened to her. Then she finally spoke, her voice soft and filled with fear. "You shouldn't be here." Ethan blinked. Her accent was strange but clear. "This is my ship now. I'm just trying to fix it." Her eyes glowed brighter. "No, it's mine." Before he could reply, the ship's walls vibrated and a deep rumbling noise filled the air. Warning lights flickered red. Ethan jumped up and ran toward the cockpit. What now? Through the cracked window, he saw flashes in the sky. Distant explosions like lightning storms in orbit. A message appeared on the main screen, half glitched but still readable. "Warning, hostile activity detected in nearby sector. Evacuation recommended." Ethan frowned. That can't be right. The war ended years ago. The alien girl stepped into the light behind him, her expression cold now, no longer afraid. "The war never ended," she said quietly. "You just forgot about it." Ethan turned toward her, confusion and fear mixing in his eyes. "What do you mean?" She looked past him, toward the sky outside. "They're coming back. And if you stay here, you'll die with me." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The old ship groaned again, the sound echoing like a warning. Ethan stared at her. The strange, beautiful alien girl hiding inside a forgotten warship, and realized he had just bought more than a pile of junk. He had stepped into a war that never truly ended. Outside, thunder rolled across the clouds. Inside the Odyssey 7, two strangers stood facing each other, one human, one alien, both bound by fate neither could yet understand. The storm outside the junkyard grew stronger as night fell. Rusted metal screamed against the wind, and sparks flickered from half-buried machines. Inside the ship Odyssey 7, Ethan and the alien girl stood in silence. The console lights still blinked faintly, like the ship was waking from a long sleep. Ethan leaned over the main controls, trying to understand the system, but everything was in an alien language. He sighed and looked at the girl. "You said they're coming back. Who's coming?" She didn't answer at first. Her eyes watched him carefully, almost studying him. Then she said softly, "The ones who destroyed my world. They'd built this ship. They built all of them." Ethan frowned. "The Dominion?" She nodded slowly. "You call them that. We called them the Burners." The name sent a chill through him. He remembered the stories, the war that had nearly wiped out 3 colonies before the peace treaty. He thought it was over. Everyone did. He sat down in the pilot's chair. "If they're coming, we need to get out of here." The girl tilted her head. "You can't fly it." "I can fix things," he said with a small grin. "That's what I do." "You can fix metal," she replied. "But not what's inside." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Inside?" She placed her hand on the console. The ship responded instantly. Lights flickered to life. A low hum filled the air, and the controls lit up in glowing blue lines. Ethan jumped back. "What the hell?" The girl looked calm, almost sad. "The ship is alive. It's not a machine. It's a mind. And it listens to me." Ethan stared in disbelief. "You mean it's sentient?" "Yes," she said. "And it remembers everything. Even the war." He walked slowly around the cockpit, trying to understand what he was seeing. The ship's systems were running smoothly now. The screens showed power readings, life support, and even a faint map of nearby space. "This ship's been dead for years," he whispered. "Not dead," she said quietly. "Sleeping, waiting." He looked at her again. Her pale green skin glowed softly in the cockpit's light. There was a sadness in her expression, something deep and old. "Why were you hiding here?" he asked. She hesitated, her fingers tracing the edge of the console. "Because this ship was my home. My people built it to protect our colony. But when the Burners came, they killed everyone. I was the last one left." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "You were a soldier?" She shook her head. "A navigator. I wasn't supposed to fight. But the ship, it wouldn't let me die. It kept me alive." For a moment, the only sound was the soft hum of the engines. Ethan leaned forward. "You've been here all this time? Alone?" Her eyes lowered. "For many years. I don't even know how long. The ship didn't want me to leave. It said the outside was dangerous." Ethan rubbed his face, trying to process everything. "You've been stuck in this junkyard, hiding from ghosts." She looked up, and there was anger in her voice now. "They are not ghosts. They are coming back. And you brought them here. What?" The main screen flashed red again, new readings, movement in orbit. Ethan ran to the console. "That's impossible. The scanners must be glitching." The girl closed her eyes. "No, they found us." Outside, faint lights appeared in the sky, small bright dots moving fast. Ethan's stomach dropped. "Those are ships," he whispered. The alien girl nodded. Burner scouts. They're searching for old war relics. They'll destroy anything they find. Ethan looked around desperately. Then we need to leave now. The Odyssey can't jump, she said. Her core is damaged. Then we fix it. She looked at him, surprised by his determination. You'd risk your life for a ship you just bought. He smirked faintly. I've risked my life for less. The girl stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You don't even know my name, then tell me. She hesitated before speaking. Lyra. All right, Lyra, Ethan said, moving toward the back of the ship. Show me what's broken. Lyra followed him through the dim corridors, the light from her skin casting a green glow on the metal walls. They reached the engine room, a massive chamber filled with pipes, crystals, and strange organic wiring pulsing faintly. Ethan whistled. This isn't like any engine I've ever seen. Lyra touched a cluster of wires. The heart of the ship is wounded. It needs energy from a fusion core, but yours are too weak. Ethan looked thoughtful. Maybe I can build something stronger. She raised an eyebrow. You think like a warrior. He smiled. No, I think like an engineer. Outside, the rumbling of distant thunder grew louder, but it wasn't thunder anymore. The first enemy ships were entering the atmosphere, their engines burning red against the clouds. Lyra turned toward the sound. We don't have much time. Ethan tightened his gloves and grabbed a toolkit. Then let's make this thing fly again. For the first time in years, the Odyssey's lights began to brighten. Metal plates shifted. The engines hummed weakly. The ship seemed to breathe again. Lyra glanced at him, almost smiling. You woke her up. Ethan looked at her, sweat on his brow, eyes shining with determination. Let's make sure she remembers how to fight. Outside, shadows moved across the burning sky. The war was no longer a memory, it was coming for them. And deep inside the ship, an old power began to stir once more. The junkyard shook as the first explosions hit the ground. Dust clouds rose into the air, covering the broken ships like a storm of ashes. Ethan and Lyra stood in the engine room of the Odyssey 7, working side by side while the old vessel trembled around them. Keep the stabilizers steady. Ethan shouted over the noise. Sparks flew from the wall as another blast hit nearby. Lyra held her hand over a glowing crystal embedded in the core. The ship is scared, she whispered. She remembers the sound. Then tell her we're not giving up. Ethan yelled, twisting a bolt tight with a wrench. His hands were covered in grease, and sweat ran down his face. The lights flickered again. The hum of the ship's power core grew louder, deeper, more alive. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering something in a language Ethan didn't understand. The glowing lines along the walls brightened, pulsing with rhythm like a heartbeat. Ethan watched, amazed. What are you doing? Talking to her, Lyra said softly. The Odyssey listens to feelings, not words. She responds to courage. The noise outside grew louder, sharp, metallic screeches echoed through the junkyard as enemy ships landed nearby. Ethan glanced at the radar screen on his wrist. 3 scout ships. Maybe 4. Lyra turned to him, her golden eyes glowing brighter. If they find us, they'll destroy everything. Even the junkyard. Then we need to move now. He ran toward the cockpit. Lyra followed, her bare feet silent on the metal floor. They reached the front of the ship as the power surged again. The consoles lit up, and the main display showed multiple red dots closing in fast. Ethan dropped into the pilot's seat. All right, Odyssey. Let's see if you can still fly. He pulled the main lever. The engines roared weakly, coughing smoke. The ship lifted slightly, then fell again with a loud thud. Come on, he muttered, hitting the control. Lyra stepped forward, placing her hand on the glowing interface. She needs to trust you. Trust me. She doesn't know you yet, but she knows me. Let me help. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Do it. Lyra's eyes closed, and the air around her shimmered faintly. The lights of the cockpit changed color, from dull blue to bright white. The engines roared again, stronger this time, and the Odyssey lifted off the ground. Ethan's mouth fell open. You did it. No, Lyra said softly, opening her eyes. We did it. The ship rose higher, breaking free from the junkyard's dust clouds. The sky above was filled with red streaks, enemy ships flying in formation. Ethan grabbed the controls, steadying the ship. Can this thing fight? Lyra touched another panel. She remembers how. Panels on the sides of the Odyssey opened, revealing old plasma cannons that hummed back to life. Beautiful. Ethan said under his breath, but before they could react, one of the burner ships turned toward them and fired. A bolt of red energy hit the side of the Odyssey, shaking it hard. Alarms screamed through the cockpit. Shields down to 30%, Lyra said. Shields? I didn't even know we had those. Ethan yelled, fighting to control the ship. Lyra smiled faintly despite the danger. You learn fast. Ethan swung the ship around, the engines howling. Hold on. He pressed a button, and the Odyssey fired back. Twin plasma beams shot across the sky, striking one of the smaller burner ships. It exploded in a burst of light, falling to the ground like a dying star. Ethan couldn't help but grin. Now that's more like it. But the victory was short-lived. 2 more ships appeared from the clouds, their weapons glowing. Lyra looked tense. They're calling for reinforcements. We can't fight them all. Then we don't fight, Ethan said, pushing the throttle forward. We run. The Odyssey shot through the clouds, leaving the burning junkyard behind. The enemy ships followed closely, firing red plasma bolts that streaked past their wings. Ethan gritted his teeth. She's fast, but not fast enough. Lyra placed both hands on the console. I can give her more power, but it will hurt. Hurt who? Ethan asked. The ship. And maybe me. He looked at her. For a moment, he wanted to tell her not to do it. But the fire in her eyes stopped him. Do it, he said quietly. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering in her strange language again. The ship screamed. A deep metallic roar filled the air as blue energy surged through every wire. The stars outside blurred. The Odyssey shot forward like lightning, breaking through the atmosphere into open space. The pursuing ships vanished behind them. Ethan slumped back in his seat, breathing hard. We made it. Lyra's body trembled, and she fell to one knee. Ethan rushed to her side. Hey, are you okay? She nodded weakly. It's just the connection. It takes strength. He helped her to a chair. You didn't have to do that. Her eyes met his. You saved me when you didn't have to. Now we're even. Ethan smiled faintly. Somehow, I don't think this is over yet. Lyra looked at the stars outside, the vast emptiness of space stretching endlessly before them. No, she said softly. This is just the beginning. The Odyssey drifted silently among the stars, its engines glowing faintly blue. Below them, the junkyard burned. Above in the darkness, a signal pulsed quietly, a call that had just been answered. And somewhere far away, something powerful had begun to move. Asterisk silence filled the ship after the battle. The stars outside looked peaceful again, but Ethan knew that peace was a lie. The Odyssey 7 drifted quietly through the cold dark, its engines humming low. Ethan leaned back in the pilot's seat, watching the small green lights flicker on the control panels. We're clear. For now, he muttered. Lyra sat nearby, her head resting against the wall. Her breathing was slow, her skin faintly glowing. She looked weak, almost drained. You need rest, Ethan said gently. I'm fine, she whispered. You don't look fine, he replied, walking over to her. Whatever you did back there, it nearly killed you. Lyra looked up, her golden eyes meeting his. It was necessary. The ship needed my strength to move faster. The burners would have caught us otherwise. Ethan frowned. You keep saying the ship is alive. What exactly is she? Lyra hesitated. Her voice softened. She was created from my people's life force. The Odyssey isn't just metal and wires. She's part of us, a living being with a heart and memories. When the burners destroyed my world, she took what was left of me to survive. Ethan stared at her, trying to understand. You mean, she's connected to you? Lyra nodded. Her core is bound to my energy. That's why I can feel her pain. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then we have to keep her safe. Lyra smiled faintly. You speak like a guardian. He shrugged. Maybe I am now. A soft beep interrupted them. The main screen lit up, showing a glowing blue signal pulsing in the darkness. Ethan frowned. What's that? Lyra stood slowly, her expression changing to concern. It's a distress beacon. Old, but familiar. Could it be one of your people? She shook her head. No one survived. Then who's sending it? Lyra walked closer to the screen. The coordinates appeared. A small moon orbiting a dead planet, not far from their current position. It's coming from a memory vault, she said softly. One of our hidden archives. Ethan raised an eyebrow. A memory vault? It's where we stored the history of our civilization, she explained. Before the war ended, my people sent ships to hide our knowledge across the stars. Ethan crossed his arms. So this signal means someone or something is still guarding it. Lyra nodded slowly. If the burners found it, they'll destroy everything we were. Ethan glanced at the screen again, thinking. Then we can't ignore it. You'd go there? For something that isn't yours? He gave her a small smile. Maybe it's not mine. But if the burners are coming back, we'll need every bit of knowledge we can find. Lyra stared at him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she said quietly, You're not like the others. Ethan chuckled. I get that a lot. He set the ship's course toward the moon. The engines rumbled to life, and the stars stretched around them as they moved through the dark. Hours passed in silence. Lyra rested while Ethan kept watch. He couldn't sleep. His mind was full of questions. Who were the burners really? Why was this ship still alive? And what was the truth about the war that never ended? As they approached the moon, Ethan leaned forward. There it is. The small moon looked lifeless, covered in craters and shadow. The distress beacon flashed faintly from a deep valley below. Lyra walked up beside him. We should go down carefully. If it's a trap. I know, Ethan said. We'll scan the area first. He activated the ship's sensors. The display showed faint energy readings beneath the surface, something buried deep underground. That's it, Lyra whispered. The vault. Ethan maneuvered the Odyssey closer, landing softly in the valley. Dust and rocks flew as the ship touched down. When the engines went quiet, a strange stillness filled the air. Lyra walked to the hatch and looked out through the glass. This place feels cold, empty. Ethan grabbed a flashlight and his toolkit. Let's take a look. They stepped out into the thin, gray dust. The stars above were sharp and silent. Each step echoed in the emptiness. A faint blue light shimmered in the distance, the source of the beacon. As they walked closer, Ethan saw a large metallic door half buried in the rock. Symbols were carved along its surface, the same language that covered the Odyssey's panels. Lyra touched the symbols gently. It's locked. It only opens to one of my kind. She pressed her palm against the door. A pulse of light spread across it, and the ground trembled. Slowly, the door opened with a hiss. Inside was a dark chamber filled with floating crystals, each glowing faintly. The air felt heavy, almost alive. Ethan looked around in awe. This is incredible. Lyra walked among the crystals, her eyes full of emotion. These are our memories, voices of the past. She touched one of the crystals. A soft blue light expanded, and a holographic figure appeared, another alien. Tall and graceful, speaking in Lyra's language. Lyra's eyes widened. It's my mother. Ethan stepped back quietly, letting her listen. The hologram spoke gently, the tone filled with sorrow. Lyra whispered the translation. She says, "If anyone finds this, they must protect the last code, the one that can stop the burners forever." Ethan's heart pounded. A code? Lyra nodded, tears in her eyes. It's hidden inside the Odyssey's core. Ethan looked stunned. You mean, the ship itself holds the weapon? Lyra turned toward him. Not a weapon, she said softly. A choice. The hologram flickered and disappeared. Ethan looked around the silent vault, realizing the truth. The Odyssey wasn't just a ship. It was the last key to ending the war. And now, the burners knew where it was. Outside, the moon trembled again, this time from something far above. A red light flickered through the clouds. Lyra's face went pale. They found us. Ethan grabbed her hand. Then we finish this together. Asterisk, the ground shook beneath Ethan's boots. Rocks fell from the ceiling of the vault as the low rumble of engines filled the air. The sound was distant but growing fast. The burners were here. Lyra stared upward, her golden eyes glowing brighter in the dark. They've locked onto our location. Ethan grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the exit. Then we move now. They ran through the narrow tunnel, their footsteps echoing. Behind them, the soft blue light of the crystals flickered and faded. When they reached the mouth of the cave, a red glow painted the valley floor. 3 burner ships descended through the dusty air, their engines burning like molten fire. Ethan's heart pounded. We'll never outrun them on foot. Lyra turned toward the Odyssey, which sat waiting near the ridge, its hull shining faintly in the light of the twin moons. She knows we're in danger, Lyra whispered. The ship's lights blinked to life as if answering her. Then let's go. Ethan shouted. They sprinted across the rocky ground while laser bolts hit nearby, blasting holes into the dust. Ethan stumbled once, but Lyra grabbed his arm, pulling him forward. They reached the hatch just as another explosion struck the valley wall. Ethan slammed the door shut behind them. Odyssey, take off. He yelled. The ship responded with a deep roar. The engines flared blue and lifted them off the ground. Ethan fell into the pilot's chair, his hands shaking as he gripped the controls. Lyra stood beside him, her hand pressed against the console. They're surrounding us, she said. Then we break through. The Odyssey shot upward. The view outside turned red with enemy fire. The ship shook violently as plasma blasts struck the shields. Shields at 40%. Lyra shouted, "Tell her to hold together." Ethan replied. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering in her native tongue. The ship answered with a rising hum, and the lights along the walls flared. The next volley from the enemy hit, but the Odyssey didn't break. Ethan smirked. Good girl. One of the burner ships cut across their path. Ethan rolled the Odyssey sharply to the right and fired. Twin plasma beams struck the enemy's wing, sending it spinning into the ground. Lyra looked at him in surprise. You fly like one of us. He grinned. Guess I'm a fast learner. But the smile faded when he saw the radar. More incoming big ones. Above them, a massive burner cruiser emerged from the clouds. It dwarfed the Odyssey, its hull covered in black armor that glowed like lava. Lyra single quotes as expression hardened. That's their command ship. The cruiser fired a beam of red light that slammed into the valley, shaking the entire moon. Ethan barely kept the Odyssey steady. We can't fight that. Lyra hesitated, then looked toward the back of the ship. Maybe we don't have to. What are you thinking? The code, she said. The message from my mother, it's inside the ship's core. If we can unlock it, The Odyssey will awaken completely. She know what to do. Ethan didn't like the sound of that. And if it kills you? Lyra met his eyes. Then at least she will live. And maybe. So will you. Before he could stop her, she ran toward the engine room. Ethan followed close behind. The corridor lights pulsed like a heartbeat as they entered the core chamber. The heart of the Odyssey glowed deep blue, surrounded by strange living wires. Lyra stepped into the circle, her body shining with the same light. "Lyra, wait!" Ethan shouted. She looked back and smiled faintly. "You gave me hope again, Ethan. Don't lose yours." Then she placed both hands on the core. A wave of energy surged through the ship. The walls shone with blinding light. Ethan was thrown to the floor, covering his eyes. When the light dimmed, Lyra was floating above the core, her hair lifting in a halo of silver. The ship's voice echoed through the chamber, not mechanical but soft and warm. Connection complete. Memory restored. Ethan looked around in shock. "Odyssey, you can talk?" The voice replied calmly. "I am awake." Lyra's body slowly lowered to the ground. She opened her eyes, now shining pure white. She remembers everything. The ship trembled, and Ethan ran back to the cockpit. On the main screen, dozens of red dots surrounded them, the burner fleet closing in. Ethan shouted, "We're outnumbered." Odyssey's voice replied, "Numbers do not matter. Purpose does." The ship rose higher, the stars reflecting off its newly glowing hull. Energy gathered along its sides, brighter and brighter. Lyra stepped into the cockpit, her voice calm but distant. "The code isn't a weapon. It's a message to every living mind connected to the burners. It can stop them if it reaches their core network." Ethan stared. "Then send it." Lyra nodded, placing her hand on the console. The light from her palm spread across the entire room. The Odyssey began transmitting. Outside, the burner ships reacted violently, their weapons charging. The cruiser fired another beam, but this time, the Odyssey didn't dodge. Instead, it met the blast head-on. The beam split around the ship like water around a stone. The light from the Odyssey expanded outward, a wave of blue energy sweeping across the battlefield. Every burner ship froze mid-flight. Their red lights dimmed, one by one. The silence that followed was deep and endless. Ethan watched the radar. "They're shutting down." Lyra smiled weakly. "They're listening." The cruiser drifted in space, motionless, but then the lights of the Odyssey flickered. The energy was fading fast. Ethan turned to Lyra. She was trembling, barely standing. "Lyra," he shouted, catching her before she fell. Her voice was soft, fading. "She's free now. But the link takes everything from me." Ethan's chest tightened. "No, you're not doing this alone." He placed his hand beside hers on the console. The light spread between them, human and alien connected. The Odyssey's voice spoke again, quieter now. "Two hearts, one purpose." Outside, the wave of light continued spreading across the stars. And in that moment, Ethan realized the truth. This wasn't just about war or survival. It was about two lost souls giving life to something greater than themselves. The blue light faded slowly, leaving behind a quiet stillness that filled the stars. The battle was over. The burner fleet no longer moved. Their red engines had dimmed to black, their weapons cold. The energy wave that Lyra and the Odyssey sent had spread far, further than Ethan could see. He sat in the pilot's seat, staring at the empty radar screen, breathing hard. "It's over," he whispered. The ship's voice replied softly. "Peace has returned to the void." Ethan turned toward Lyra. She was lying near the console, her silver hair spread like light across the floor, her glow fading. He rushed to her side and lifted her head gently. "Hey, stay with me," he said. "You did it. You stopped them." Her lips moved faintly. "It wasn't me. It was us." Her voice was weak but calm. She looked around the cockpit as if seeing it for the last time. She's free now. The Odyssey doesn't need me anymore. Ethan shook his head. Don't talk like that. You're not leaving. We'll find a way to fix this. Lyra smiled softly. You can fix machines, Ethan, but not souls that are tied to stars. Her hand reached for his face, trembling slightly. You brought me back to life. Even for a short while. That's more than I ever hoped for. Ethan's throat tightened. You're not just some alien navigator. You're my crew. Lyra's golden eyes shimmered, tears glinting in them. Then promise me. Take her somewhere safe. Don't let her fall back into war. He nodded slowly. I promise. Lyra's breathing slowed. The light in her skin faded until she looked almost human. Her voice came one last time, soft as starlight. Goodbye, Ethan. Then the light went out. Ethan sat there in silence, holding her still hand. The ship around him was quiet too. No more alarms, no more shaking. Just the sound of the engines humming gently, like a lullaby. The Odyssey's voice broke the silence. Her essence remains within my core. She's one with me now. Ethan looked up, his voice rough. You mean she's alive in you? In a way, the ship replied. She chose to merge completely. It was the only way to release the code and end the war. Ethan stared out into the stars. She saved everyone. She believed in you, the ship said quietly. And so do I. He stood and walked toward the window. Outside, the burner ships floated lifeless, drifting like dark shadows among the stars. The war that had lasted generations was finally over, ended by a single girl, who refused to give up her home. Ethan placed his hand on the glass. Rest now, Lyra, I'll take it from here. He turned back to the controls. The ship's systems responded easily now, smoother than before. It was as if the Odyssey understood him completely. Destination? The ship asked. Ethan smiled faintly. Let's go find a new world, somewhere quiet. The engines brightened again, glowing soft blue. The ship rose, turning toward the distant stars. The light of the nearby planet faded behind them as they drifted into the open void. For a long time, there was silence. Ethan leaned back, staring at the stars ahead, endless, beautiful, and full of memories. Then, softly, a familiar voice echoed through the ship's speakers. Ethan. He froze. Lyra? Her voice was faint, like a whisper carried on wind. You kept your promise. He smiled, tears in his eyes. You didn't really think I'd stop fixing things, did you? A soft laugh came through the speakers, gentle and warm. The stars are watching you now. The voice faded, leaving only the sound of the engines. But Ethan didn't feel alone. The ship felt alive, not just with power, but with presence. He adjusted the throttle, watching the streaks of light stretch across the darkness. Let's go, Odyssey, he said quietly. Let's make her proud. The ship responded with a quiet hum, as if smiling back. Together, they vanished into the deep blue of space, a human, a ship, and the lingering spirit of a girl who had once guarded the last memory of her people. And as they disappeared into the stars, the galaxy began to heal, the silence of war replaced by the soft hum of hope.